Welcome, friend, to this quiet haven where echoes of the past whisper their stories. Before we delve into the chilling depths of winters long gone by, allow me to offer a sincere greeting. Whether you're seeking solace before sleep or a moment of calm reflection, I'm honored you've chosen this companionship. I often wonder where these tales travel, so if you feel inclined, do share your location and the time of day in your part of the world. It's a genuine pleasure to connect with fellow spirits drawn to history's embrace. And if this manner of serene, immersive storytelling resonates with you, consider subscribing to ensure you don't miss our future explorations. For now, let us shed the worries of our contemporary lives and venture to an era when the bite of winter was a far more formidable foe than we can easily comprehend. A period when the turning of the seasons heralded not just a change in wardrobe, but a profound challenge to existence itself. Imagine the landscapes of medieval Europe, stripped bare by autumn's departure. The sun, a pale disk low in the sky, offers little warmth against the encroaching cold. A crystalline layer of frost coats the fields, crackling underfoot. As the wind carries the first delicate messengers of snow, winter approaches, and for the inhabitants of this time, its arrival signifies, above all, a season of profound trial. The chill insinuates itself gradually, yet its presence will be a steadfast companion for many arduous months. Soon a white mantle will cover the earth, and waterways will transform into solid sheets of ice. In an age devoid of modern heating and insulation, sustained warmth was an elusive luxury, reserved for the very affluent. Yet, it is important to remember that medieval winters were not uniformly harsh. There was a period when the seasonal cadence was more regular, when snowfall was a familiar, if sometimes inconvenient, part of life. But a significant alteration occurred. The climate itself underwent a transformation, initiating what history would later term the Little Ice Age, spanning from the 14th century well into the 19th. This era brought colder mean temperatures, and winters of a severity previously unknown. The precise causes remain a subject of scientific inquiry, but its consequences were undeniable. Agricultural yields diminished, livestock succumbed, and the icy gales intensified. A notorious illustration of the Little Ice Age's severity was the Great Frost of 1709. During that winter, temperatures plunged to such extremes that rivers and lakes froze solid. In London, the River Thames became a veritable ice fair, with merchants erecting stalls, and citizens even building fires upon its frozen surface. It was an extraordinary spectacle, but one that exacted a heavy toll. Countless individuals perished from the relentless cold that year, huddled within their dwellings as the world beyond became a realm of ice. However, amidst such widespread suffering, some individuals discovered an unexpected inspiration in the frigid conditions. One such notable figure was Isaac Newton, at that time a student at Cambridge University. The Great Frost compelled Newton to return to his family's agricultural estate. There, by the warmth of the hearth, he found himself with abundant, uninterrupted time to contemplate the universe's enigmas. It was during this enforced sabbatical that Newton began to formulate some of his most revolutionary concepts, establishing the groundwork for his work on calculus and optics. One can only speculate what other brilliant intellects might have been similarly spurred to discovery by the profound quietude of a protracted, cold winter. It serves as a potent reminder that even in the most challenging periods, the human spirit possesses an innate capacity to seek out illumination. But for the overwhelming majority of people in medieval times, winter was a period to be endured, not a source of intellectual retreat. The wealthy could procure substantial woolen attire, abundant supplies of firewood, and well-filled larders to navigate the barren months. For the peasants and serfs, who constituted the bulk of the populace, the reality was starkly different. Envision awakening each dawn in a single-room dwelling, the atmosphere dense with smoke from a struggling fire. Your exhalations would form mist as you rose from a bed of straw, taking care not to disturb your family members, clustered together for mutual warmth. The cold would infiltrate every opening, numbing extremities until they ached. Breakfast, if fortune smiled, might consist of a scant portion of porridge or some dry bread. Provisions from the preceding harvest would be dwindling, and the knowledge that the ensuing winter months would only exacerbate this scarcity was a constant burden. The farm animals, too, endured hardship. Their coats would be matted with ice as they huddled in the barn, their breath visible in the frosty air. As the day progressed, one would venture into the snow to collect whatever firewood could be found. This was exhausting labor, and hands would quickly become chapped and sore from the cold. Yet, the understanding that without a fire, the family would not survive the night, provided a grim impetus. The thought of one's children, their small faces etched with hunger and cold, spurred onward. This was the unvarnished truth for so many during medieval times, a ceaseless struggle against the elements, a fight for sheer survival that occupied every conscious moment. And yet, even when confronted with such adversity, instances of resilience and even moments of joy could be found. The medieval world was profoundly connected to nature's rhythms. The progression of the seasons was observed, not merely through meteorological changes, but also through a complex tapestry of customs and festivities. Thus, even in winter's deepest throes, flickers of light persisted. One such beacon of hope was the midwinter festival of St. Stephen, observed annually on December 26th. For a fleeting interlude, the rigid societal structures of medieval Europe were inverted, with a peasant or serf often being designated the lord of misrule for the day. This chosen individual would then preside over a spirited celebration, replete with food, drink, and general merriment, a rare indulgence in an otherwise frugal existence. But perhaps the most enduring emblem of optimism during the medieval winter was the fundamental act of community. In a world where survival was frequently contingent upon the collective strength of one's village, the ties of family and fellowship assumed immense significance. Imagine a small hamlet nestled against the snow-laden landscape. Smoke curling from chimneys would merge with the somber sky, a fragile sign of life in the desolate surroundings. Within the homes, families would gather around the hearth, recounting stories and sharing whatever meager provisions they possessed. A sense of unity prevailed, a shared determination in the face of adversity. Neighbors would traverse the snow to check on one another, offering surplus firewood or a share of a warm meal to those in greater need. In the wavering light of the fire, faces might be etched with fatigue, but also with a quiet resolve. They had weathered previous winters, and they would weather this one as well. And so, the long, frigid months would pass, snowdrifts accumulating and ice thickening with each day. Yet, even in winter's most profound darkness, a glimmer of hope remained. The people of medieval times understood that, regardless of the seasons, ferocity, spring would inevitably return. They keenly observed the earliest indications, the subtle elongation of daylight, the slight yielding of the earth beneath the snow, and when the thaw finally commenced, it was greeted with a jubilation and reverence that is difficult for us to fully grasp today. Plough Monday signified the official conclusion of the winter season, a day when agricultural labor could recommence. The ploughs, long dormant, were brought out and ritually blessed in elaborate ceremonies, symbolizing the renewed cycle of life. As the first furrows were turned, a tangible sense of relief and gratitude filled the air. Life had been arduous, yes, at times incredibly so, but they had persevered. Through the extended darkness of winter, through hunger, cold, and gnawing uncertainty, the people of medieval Europe had held on to the promise of spring. And now, as the land began to soften and new growth emerged, that promise was realized. It's a form of resilience that is challenging to comprehend in our era of modern conveniences. The notion of confronting such unyielding hardship year after year is almost beyond our imagination. Yet there is something profoundly humbling in recognizing that our ancestors did precisely that. They confronted the harsh realities of their existence with a strength and fortitude that is truly remarkable. They discovered hope in the darkest periods and joy in the simplest of pleasures. In doing so, they bequeath to us a legacy of resilience that resonates through the centuries. So, the next occasion you find yourself feeling the chill of a winter's day, take a moment to reflect on those who lived before us. Remember their struggles and their triumphs, their sorrows and their joys. And above all, remember the indomitable human spirit that sustained them through even the most severe winters. For in the end, that is perhaps the most profound lesson the medieval world can offer, that no matter how dark the night or how biting the wind, the promise of spring is always, invariably, just over the horizon. And with that, dear friend, we conclude our passage through the severe winters of medieval Europe. I trust these narratives of hardship and resilience have offered a fresh perspective on your own experiences of the season. May you always find warmth and solace in the bonds of family and community, as our ancestors did long ago. And may the promise of spring illuminate your path through even the coldest of nights. Thank you for accompanying me in this quiet reflection on history. Remember, if you found value in our time together, I would be grateful if you would subscribe and perhaps share these stories. There are many more compelling tales for us to explore. But for this moment, I bid you a warm good night. Stay comfortable, stay secure, and I look forward to our next journey into the past. Sweet dreams, as the severe conditions of winter consolidated their icy dominion over medieval society. Even the most privileged were not shielded from the season's unsparing assault. Within drafty rudimentary castles ill-suited for the harshest months, royal households confronted a significant challenge in warding off the penetrating cold and ensuring the court remained adequately supplied. The logistical demands of maintaining a royal residence during winter were immense. Vast quantities of firewood had to be accumulated to feed the roaring hearths, the sole providers of heat. Kitchen staff labored incessantly to preserve meats, grains, and vegetables that would sustain the court through the protracted lean months when fresh provisions were unobtainable. Servants worked diligently to seal every fissure and opening to prevent the insidious chill from entering. Yet, even the most thorough preparations often proved inadequate against winter's relentless siege. In one particularly grim account, a medieval queen is said to have tragically died from exposure within her own palace. According to chroniclers, Queen Elizabeth of Hungary was discovered frozen in her bed on a bitter January morning in 1326, a victim of the very fortress intended as her sanctuary. As such somber fates illustrate, the specter of death loomed large over the medieval world during winter's darkest periods. But even amid such bleakness, the indomitable human spirit persisted and found reasons to rekindle hope. For much of the populace, that faint glimmer manifested as the Feast of St. Stephen, a treasured midwinter celebration on December 26th. This day offered a brief respite from the unending toil and deprivation of peasant existence, a rare, sanctioned occasion for revelry and indulgence. Central to this feast was the tradition of misrule, a ceremonial inversion of the established social hierarchy. For this single day, a commoner would be designated the Lord of Misrule, granted temporary authority to oversee the merriment and issue playful commands to his social superiors. However transient, this act of sanctioned liberty provided a crucial outlet for the simmering tensions and resentments engendered by the oppressive feudal system. The rigid demarcations between lord and vassal blurred for one joyous day, where all could participate as equals in feasting, games, and carousing. The sense of community fostered by such celebrations was more than mere entertainment. It was a vital survival mechanism when winter's cruelty threatened to break both body and spirit. The bonds of fellowship and goodwill forged during the Feast of St. Stephen and similar festivities helped sustain the populace through the most challenging times. One chronicle from 1377 narrates the poignant story of two peasant families, neighbors, whose meager winter reserves had been depleted long before spring's arrival. On the brink of starvation, they pooled their last remaining resources to share a humble meal on the feast of St. Stephen. That gesture of generosity and unity gave them the strength to endure the season's remaining hardships. Such acts of compassion formed the very essence of medieval society in winter, when a helping hand to a frostbitten traveler or an extra log for a shivering widow could mean the difference between life and death. The grim, shared purpose of weathering winter's onslaught together cultivated a culture of interdependence that transcended the era's often ruthless social stratification, but even the warmest expressions of conviviality and fellowship inevitably cooled as winter's unyielding misery stretched on. The feast of St. Stephen was but a small burst of light and levity amidst the frozen darkness, a momentary reprieve before the bleak endurance of January, February, and March. As provisions dwindled, hunger intensified, and the cold seeped past even the most diligently maintained hearths, the faint promise of distant spring seemed to recede into impossibility. And yet, year after arduous year, medieval society persevered against all odds. Through unimaginable adversity and hardship, they clung to existence, sustained by the grit, fortitude, and fellowship forged in winter's unforgiving crucible. As the land lay dormant and the sun retreated, they somehow found within themselves the tenacity to continue. One can only imagine the profound relief and joy that greeted the first tentative signs of winter's decline, the slight softening of the frigid air, the incremental lengthening of daylight, the hopeful dripping of icicles yielding to the sun's strengthening rays. After months of unremitting struggle, the sight of the season's initial defeats against the forces of light and life must have seemed nothing short of miraculous. For the battle-weary cultivators of the earth, no day was more welcome than Plough Monday, the traditional commencement of the agricultural year. Occurring on the first Monday after Epiphany in early January, it heralded the ground's imminent thawing and reawakening. Though the deepest rigors of winter had yet to fully release their grip, the ritual preparations of Plough Monday offered a tangible talisman of hope, an assurance of winter's eventual loosening and spring's return. One can envision a patchwork of furrowed fields slowly emerging from the receding snows and frosts, the newly harnessed draft animals leaning into the first tentative turning of the frigid earth. With each clod of soil upturned to greet the strengthening sun, medieval man dealt another blow to winter's retreating sovereignty and proclaimed his dogged persistence in the face of nature's caprice. We, in the modern world, with our central heating and electric blankets, our well-stocked pantries and resilient infrastructure, can scarcely fathom the immense fortitude required to endure the unremitting brutality of a medieval winter. If the season's impositions seem daunting to us now from the cozy remove of our temperature-controlled environments, how incomprehensible must true winter suffering be? And yet, when we complain about the minor inconveniences of a delayed flight, or a rain-snarled commute, perhaps we would do well to reflect on the unyielding misery experienced by our forebears during those interminable frozen months. What reserves of resilience and tenacity they were forced to draw upon year after arduous year simply to survive. Their ability to eke out moments of celebration and fellowship amidst such unrelenting privation seems nearly superhuman to modern sensibilities, that they not only withstood winter's ravages, but managed to find slivers of light in the all-encompassing darkness, is a testament to the indomitable spirit that slumbers within us all, waiting to be roused by hardship's call. So the next time we feel our modern discontent starting to chafe, perhaps we would do well to cast our minds back to the icy plights of our predecessors. In remembrance of those who came before, let us embrace the opportunity to tap into our own dormant reserves of grit and forbearance. And as we nestle gratefully into our warm beds, let us spare a thought for all those who fought winter's bitter siege, armed only with the weapons of will, fellowship, and undying hope. As the new year dawned and Plough Monday festivities faded, medieval life reverted to its familiar winter rhythm. Short, frigid days and long frosty nights defined the season. The fortunate retreated to the meager warmth of smoky dwellings and drafty manors. For the less privileged, winter meant a constant battle against the elements merely to survive. One of the greatest winter hardships was the ever-present threat of illness. In the cramped and unsanitary living conditions of the time, disease could spread with alarming speed. The common cold was an uncommon misery, leaving sufferers congested and weary, but far more serious ailments also stalked the populace. Influenza was a formidable adversary, felling young and old alike, with its characteristic fever, chills, and aches. In an age without vaccines or effective treatments, flu outbreaks could decimate entire communities. The winter of 1557 was particularly severe, with a virulent strain of influenza raging across Europe. In Paris alone, over 10,000 souls perished. Pneumonia was another insidious killer, preying on those weakened by hunger or other illnesses. The winter dampness infiltrated the lungs, causing them to fill with fluid until the victim effectively drowned. Crowded living spaces provided the perfect breeding ground for pneumonia to spread. It was not uncommon for multiple members of the same family to succumb, leaving orphaned children and shattered lives in its wake. Even royalty was not spared the ravages of winter sickness. In fact, disease often spread even more rapidly in castles and courts due to the constant influx of people. A visiting dignitary or pilgrim might unknowingly introduce pestilence. Henry VIII lost his wife Jane Seymour to postnatal complications, likely exacerbated by the poor hygienic practices of the era. Children were perhaps the most vulnerable. Harsh weather, meager rations, and unsanitary conditions combined to make winter a truly perilous time for the young. Infants born in the cold months faced an especially precarious start. In 16th century London, fully half of all children did not survive to their 5th birthday, a poignant practice of the age. The custom of bone lace involved tying a black ribbon to the hand of a seriously ill infant. Should the child pass away, this ribbon could then be used to secure their burial shroud, a somber reminder of winter's deadly toll on the most innocent. With danger lurking both outside and within the home, winter was a time to secure oneself and pray for survival. For those of limited means, even basic comforts like shelter, food, and warmth were not guaranteed. The icy grip of winter poverty was relentless. Firewood was a precious resource, with strict regulations governing the collection of fallen wood. A peasant family might huddle around a makeshift fire of dried dung and straw, striving for feeble warmth. Shivering livestock shared what heat there was, their breath steaming. Food supplies dwindled to a meager subsistence of salted meat, dried peas, and coarse bread. The autumn harvest's bounty was a distant memory, and spring's first greenery was months away. Foraging for winter nutrients meant scouring the stark landscape for hardy items like nettles, wild garlic, and mushrooms. The scarcity of fresh vegetables in winter led to monotonous meals. A typical pottage might contain peas, beans, salted pork, and, if lucky, some foraged greens and wild onions. Tasteless and tedious, but enough to sustain life until spring. For many, even this unappealing fare was an unattainable luxury. Storms, droughts, pests, and other calamities could destroy food stores, plunging entire regions into crisis. The Great Famine of 1315 was a particularly harrowing period, caused by relentlessly heavy rains that rotted crops across northern Europe. Contemporary accounts paint a chilling picture of desperate people resorting to eating dogs, horses, and even human flesh. Parents were said to have smothered their starving children as an act of mercy. Corpses littered streets and fields, too numerous for proper burial. Although this famine was notable for its severity, localized crop failures and food shortages were an ever-present menace. A medieval winter diet was a precarious balance between subsistence and starvation. It was a time of hunkering down, knowing things would likely worsen before improving. Beyond basic survival, winter affected every aspect of medieval culture: leisure, religious worship, and even crime and punishment bore the season's unmistakable imprint. The sheer drudgery of eking out an existence in the bitter cold colored all aspects of life. Socially, winter was a time of drawing inward, relying on family and community bonds. Cheerful gatherings around the Yule log gave way to more subdued pursuits. With travel treacherous and daylight scarce, people looked inward for amusement during long, dark evenings. Storytelling and singing helped pass the hours. The flickering light of rushlights or tallow candles illuminated scenes of sewing, weaving, and whittling. With idle hands seen as problematic, industriousness was more necessity than virtue. Winter's confinement at least provided ample time for such activities. For the literate, winter offered a chance to read, though this was an exclusive privilege. In England, at the close of the 15th century, a tradesman's library might include a Bible, a book of hours, and perhaps some popular tales. Only the wealthy could afford lavishly illuminated volumes. Those who could read often did so aloud for the household's benefit. Winter was a time for sharing treasured stories of brave knights, cunning tricksters, and star-crossed lovers. The chivalric adventures of King Arthur were perennial favorites, their intricate plots transporting listeners beyond their winter confines. Less wholesome entertainments also served to alleviate winter's tedium. Gambling with dice was popular, often leading to frayed tempers and empty purses. The clatter of knucklebones and dice would echo in taverns and great halls. Drink was another common winter diversion. The fermented comforts of ale, mead, and wine helped boost both body temperature and spirits. Public houses thrived, offering fellowship, entertainment, and an escape from the cold. Inebriation often led to looser tongues, sparking lively debates, bawdy songs, and occasional brawls. The short, dark days of winter also lent themselves to quiet reflection and spiritual contemplation. The church held great sway, and winter was a time for drawing closer to God. With agricultural work at a lull, more time could be devoted to prayer, penance, and good works. Traditional nativity plays and pageants gave way to more somber devotions. As winter deepened, the pious might undertake pilgrimages, braving harsh conditions as a sign of devotion. Others spent hours in hushed churches, fingering rosary beads, numb with cold, meditating on their eternal souls. Charity was also an important winter value, almsgiving seen as a Christian duty. The 7 acts of corporal mercy provided a blueprint: feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, sheltering the homeless, clothing the naked, visiting prisoners, comforting the sick, and burying the dead. In a season of scarcity, small gestures of kindness could make all the difference. Of course, winter's harshness sometimes brought out the worst in human nature. Crime tended to rise as desperation set in. With people spending more time indoors in close quarters, tempers often frayed, leading to a spike in assaults. The medieval justice system was ill-equipped for this seasonal surge. Trials were often delayed, leaving the accused in dank jails. Punishments could be severe: fines, floggings, even executions. But even facing winter's bleak realities, the human spirit endured. People found small joys where they could. The distant promise of spring sustained them. The lengthening days of February brought a welcome reprieve with the feast of Saint Valentine on the 14th. This ancient pagan fertility rite, Christianized into a celebration of love, was enthusiastically embraced. It was a bright spot of warmth. In winter's heart, the custom of drawing names for Valentine's sweethearts was well established by the 15th century. Eligible individuals would draw slips of paper, sealing their romantic fate. These pairings often led to merry flirtations and sometimes marriages. Flowers, sweets, and sentimental verses were common tokens of affection. A handmade card could set hearts aflutter. Even in the chillest weather, winter could not freeze the fires of love. As St. Valentine's feast passed into Lent, austerities intensified, but there was a sense that the worst was past. Snowdrops and crocuses poking through the frost offered tangible evidence that winter's icy reign was weakening. Throughout the Middle Ages, the relentless cycle of seasons shaped every aspect of life, and no season left a firmer mark than winter. It was a time of privation, when mere survival was an achievement. Yet it was also a time of resilience and quiet fortitude. Medieval winter was a test of the human spirit, a proving ground for faith, family, and community. The winking icicles and frosty meadows may seem picturesque, but the realities were anything but. However, this crucible of snow and ice also forged a people of remarkable grit. The Middle Ages were built by those who could weather winter's worst and still find reason to hope for spring. There is perhaps no greater tribute to their stubborn vitality. So, the next time you bemoan a delayed train or a slushy sidewalk, spare a thought for your medieval ancestors. Unequipped with thermal socks or weather apps, they faced each winter as a battle, and they emerged victorious, spring after spring. We are the heirs of their tenacity, and with that I will leave you to your warm bed, secure that winter has been largely tamed thanks to those who came before. May your dreams be of gentle snowfalls and toasty hearths, and may you wake to a world where winter is more friend than foe. As the weak winter sun struggled to pierce the leaden clouds, the people of medieval Europe shivered, drawing meager cloaks tighter. The icy tendrils of winter's grasp seemed to creep into their very marrow. For the poorest peasants, the cruel irony was that their ragged woolen garments, so oppressively hot in summer's labor, now provided scant warmth against winter's bite. They huddled in hovels, thankful for a smoky fire's meager heat, breath misting. The animals felt winter's bite too. The elderly draft horse, ribs protruding, dreamed of summer grass while eating its rationed hay. The milk cow lowed mournfully, teats chapped in frigid draughts. Even wary barn cats looked less haughty, disdain blunted by hunger and frost. Yes, winter was especially trying for society's lowest rungs, but even nobility, in grand drafty castles, were far from immune. Many, a high-born maiden, despaired, as silk gowns proved useless against stone walls' dank chill. Castle kitchens strained to concoct hot delicacies to stoke noble innards. King Henry II of England, felled by winter shivers, once supposedly burned a chair for a moment's warmth. His servants despaired, knowing His Majesty's temper might ignite faster than furniture if he remained cold. But for peasant and king alike, winter ground on interminably, an unrelenting slog of frozen misery. Respite came only from occasional celebrations, brief islands of revelry. People seized these moments, cherishing them like a drowning man gasping for air. Perhaps most anticipated was St. Stephen's Feast on December 26th, a day of unbridled merriment and subversive reversals. By ancient tradition, a mere peasant was crowned lord of misrule, gleefully lording over his betters. One imagines raucous laughter as the lowliest serf ordered about the local baron. For one glorious day, normal hierarchies fell away, all reveling as equals. Winter's frigid drudgery receded, driven back by communal joy's bright blaze. But soon, festivities ended. Misrule was righted, and winter's cold reality descended once more. People trudged back to hearths and chores, the winds bite mocking fellowship's fleeting warmth. The battle against winter's grim siege resumed, and yet, even in winter's bleakest depths, quiet acts of courage and compassion melted frost from careworn hearts. Neighbors shared scarce provisions, exhibiting a generosity no cold could diminish. Dame Matilda of York supposedly gave her only cloak to a poor beggar, shivering herself home. Questioned, she smiled serenely. The warmth of human kindness is a fire that never goes out. Such selflessness was the secret weapon against winter's battery. Though winter could freeze fingers and toes, it couldn't touch the invincible summer reigning eternal in their hearts. And so they endured. They persisted. They triumphed. Spring's first green buds were more than a welcome sight. They were a living testament to human will's tenacity. The indomitable spirit outlasting any winter as we snuggle under electric blankets. Perhaps we should remember our medieval forebears' trials. In their unending battle against elements, their stubborn refusal to bow, they forged a resilience that warms us still. Winter's chill winds may moan, but we draw strength knowing if they braved brutal cold with naught but a cloak and unquenchable spirit, surely we can survive until spring, spring at last. As winter's icy grip finally loosened, medieval folk eagerly awaited fairer weather. They'd endured months of bitter cold, huddling in cramped quarters, stomachs growling. But now, as the sun lingered longer, glinting off melting snow, there was cause for celebration. Across the land, people emerged from winter cocoons, blinking in bright spring light like bears from hibernation. Children burst out, delighting in fresh breezes, not winter winds, sting. With giddy laughter, they ran through squelching mud, marveling at brave crocuses poking through thawing ground on infields. Farmers eagerly awaited Plough Monday, the agricultural year's traditional start. Occurring first Monday after Epiphany, it marked when ground softened enough for plowing. Draft horses and oxen, hitched to plows, paraded through village streets, decked in garlands and bright ribbons. Church bells pealed joyously, a festive start to the growing season. Palpable relief as chimneys puffed smoke again, no longer choked with snow. Frostbite and illness threats receded. Faces creased with winter's stress now crinkled into hopeful smiles. Soon, vibrant spring produce would replace bland, preserved fare that barely sustained them. It's perhaps difficult to imagine how momentous this shift was. We grumble about slush or losing an hour to daylight savings. For medieval forebears, spring's arrival was life. It meant they'd weathered winter's assault, staving off starvation and sickness. Skeletal trees cloaking in green reflected inner regrowth. Medieval people felt as warmth returned. Some elation echoes in lively medieval folk tunes, welcoming spring. One English song jauntily proclaimed, loudly sing, cuckoo. The seed is growing, and the meadow is blooming, and the wood is springing up anew. Sing cuckoo, sheer. Irrepressible joy spills in simple rhyme. Let us appreciate our medieval ancestors' immense fortitude and zest for life. Through harshest conditions, they endured by grit and community bonds. When spring sun and birdsong broke winter's silence, they reveled wholeheartedly, knowing they'd triumphed over nature's cruelty. As we nestle in warm beds, grumbling about outside chill, spare a thought for those long ago souls. The ones heaving sighs of relief as snow gave way to mud, flinging open shutters, letting spring air rush in. Ones who met winter's brutality with tenacity that should humble us. Let their strength remind us when facing our own bleak seasons. If they emerged from winter privation with such joy, surely we too can find hope. The thaw will come, sun return, and we'll step into light. Voices joined in a resounding chorus of loudly sing cuckoo. The blizzards and bitter frosts continued, but medieval folk possessed stubborn resilience. Even in winter's darkest depths, they found ways to help each other. Neighbors shared meager food, hosting communal meals. Villages assigned young men to check on elderly widows, bringing firewood, repairing huts. One such widow was Agnes, old, no family. Bones ached, hands trembled trying to kindle a fire. Nearly hopeless, a knock came. Tom, a strapping lad, cheeks ruddy, brought logs, dried peas, salted pork from villagers. Tears streamed Agnes's face as Tom stoked a roaring blaze. Warmth seeped back. Such generosity was common. Wealthy, even nobility, showed compassion. Lady Margaret, wife of the local earl, known for winter charity. Though castle larders stocked, she sent wagons of grain to poorest peasants. Peers scoffed, viewing peasantry as livestock, but Lady Margaret held to Christian duty. One winter, famine hit hard. Lady Margaret stretched provisions, ordering cooks to make hearty soups for starving. Poor at gates. Kitchen boys grumbled, but cook Bernard shared his mistress's noblesse oblige, bulking soup with every turnip. Ravenous peasants gratefully slurped it, heedless of gristly mutton. For some, their only meal for days, as winter dragged, even Lady Margaret's coffers ran low. She quietly sold jewels for supplies. Her husband, the Earl, looked away, respecting her piety, though worried. The church aided the suffering. Monasteries opened doors to poor and infirm. Warm straw pallet, daily bread and ale. Some ran primitive hospitals for frostbitten, desperately ill. Monks saw it as holy duty, emulating Christ's compassion. Brother William, a young novice, tended sick at his monastery's hospital. Sights and smells of disease turned his stomach, but he ladled broth, changed puss-soaked bandages, prayed for strength, glad his station spared him winter's worst. For winter was the great equalizer, laying low rich and poor. Wealthy afforded thicker wool, hot mulled wine, but shivered in draughty manners, worried over stores. Death came via winter-born disease. Noblewoman Lady Isabel, heavily pregnant during a vicious cold snap, sequestered every comfort, crackling hearth, furs, attentive maids, but contagion sneaks past thickest walls. Kitchen girl with hacking cough brought Lady Isabel warm milk. Days later, expectant mother burned with fever, lungs rattling. Child came too soon, a wisp that never drew breath. By week's end, Lady Isabel too was dead, King himself not immune. Henry VI, pious, fretted over subjects suffering during dreadful winter of 1433. Physicians prescribed cinnamon and ginger tonic. Still he sank into deep melancholy, hands unwarmable even by roaring hearth. Some whispered God's punishment for weak rule. Truthfully, seasonal depression struck any man. As days slowly lengthened, winter's clenched fist loosened, people dreamed of spring. Soon, land would thaw, buds appear, farming year's great wheel turn again. Earliest spring, first Monday after Epiphany, Plough Monday celebrated, first symbolic furrow cut, hopeful portent, village men blackened faces with soot for luck, paraded muddy lanes, plowshare high, singing Bodhi songs to wake slumbering soil. Afterward, dancing, hearty food, ale, promised dark days passing. Same eternal cycle. Great halls, minstrels struck merry tunes, couples leaped into lively carol dance, flushed with New Year's optimism. King hosted lavish feast, roast swan, marzipan sweets. Even lowly peasant Giles felt weight lift, venturing to humble plot, clutching precious saved seed, meaning full bellies. Wretched widow Agnes, knocking on death's door, stirred bubbling pottage, humming, made it through winter's gauntlet. Praise God, winter brutal, no escaping. Hunger, cold, death, disease, but also time medieval people's resilience, communal spirit shone. Staring into winter's abyss, they responded with generosity, grit, defiant celebration. Understood winter, inescapable. Best way to conquer cold, hunker down, endure together. So, as you huddle, grumbling about heating bill, scraping frost, spare a thought for medieval ancestors. How they survived, world before electric blankets, central heating, grocery deliveries. Modern winter woes pale, perhaps learn, empathy, charity, irrepressible hope for spring best, weather life's hardships, polar vortex or pandemic, embrace coming spring with full, grateful heart. However deep snow drifts, it yields to warming sun. Winter's harshness makes spring's blossoming sweeter. So, as medieval king might say, let us winter bravely, so that we may spring eternally. Frost crackles underfoot, trudging through. Snowdrifts, breath clouding. Icicles glitter from Waddlelandope huts. Village hushed, huddled against winter. This was winter for most medieval ancestors. Not cozy feasts in holly-decked castles. No, for vast majority, bone-chilling, cold, gnawing, Hunger, grim survival, winter hunger never far. Crops withered, livestock scarce, food a daily battle. Grain stores dwindled. Bitter herbs, shriveled turnips, all between family and starvation. 113-15 winter, English harvest fell third due to storms, freezing weather, desperate serfs ate. Straw roofs, boiled shoe leather, still laboring for lords. Malnutrition weakened defenses. Common cold became pneumonia, bronchitis. Influenza cut through villages, felling young, old, in shabby shelters. Teeth chattering, medieval folk huddled, packing into shuttered houses. Close-quartered coziness, costly. Stale, smoky air, ripe with unwashed bodies, festering chamber pots, dirty rushes, bread disease. 14th century Suffolk household, 13 family members, grandparents to babes, scrawny chickens, mangy dogs, huddled in tiny smokehouse all winter. Incredible any emerged alive. Sickness not only danger, fire's constant threat in packed wooden cities, misdirected spark, furious blaze, devouring clustered buildings, snuffing lives. Great Fire of London, 1212, started cold November night, raged through cramped lanes, water froze in pipes. Estimated 3,000 huddling Londoners perished, more homeless in winter's icy grip. Travel especially treacherous. Roads muddy quagmires, blizzards obscured way. Daylight scarce, travelers risked disorientation, losing way, stumbling to frozen grave. 1311, English Queen Isabella, Canterbury to London, winter twilight deepened. Party lost road, wandered helplessly till early hours. Pregnant queen wept. In fear, exhaustion, winter's onslaught punished working animals. Horses, oxen, gaunt, weak on scant feed, labored breaths smoked, hauling logs through knee-deep snow. Frostbite blackened extremities, ice-cracked hooves, wheel spokes. Yet even in bleak depths, medieval people found light. Feast of St. Stephen Boxing Day, charity, goodwill. Alms boxers overflowed for poor lords supplied hearty meals. Lord of misruled tradition, spark of subversive festivity, lowly peasant, jester, deacon crowned king, presided over merry revels, drunkenness, role reversals, mischief, temporary appending. Of ordered dot despite privations, dangers, hope endured, etched in frosty breaths, fervent prayers. Hope weak, ailing survive. Food lasts till spring. Light, warmth, conquer cold. So this winter, grumbling about shoveling, cursing thermostat, chilled waiting for bus, spare thought for those before. Medieval ancestors faced Herculean task, surviving winter after winter. Few comforts we take for granted. Their quiet courage, winter's cruelty, greatest lesson. Though names, stories unknown, appreciate struggles. Find inspiration in endurance that saw them to brighter days. The bitter frost continued its icy reign, transforming landscape into crystalline wonderland. Picturesque, if not for hardship. Snow fell ceaselessly, blanketing countryside and suffocating white shroud. Icicles hung like glittering daggers from peasant hovels. Grand manors, hearth fires, burning day and night, offered fleeting respite. Smoke from precious flames stung eyes, choked lungs in close, fetid air of Waterland daub huts, huddled bodies crammed together, humans, livestock, pungent aromas of dung, unwashed flesh, a uniquely medieval winter perfume. For some, even this, dubious comfort, luxury. Scant food stores stretched precariously, bellies rumbled. Poorest subsisted on coarse bread, thin gruel, praying for spring. Spectre of famine lingered. None escaped winter's deadly grasp, not even unwearers. Drafty stone castles, inhaling cold, exhaling damp. Rulers shivered beneath fir mountains. Royal households required vast firewood, provender. Woe to kingdom whose sovereign failed. To plan one account, medieval Bohemian princess perished from cold in bedchamber. Chilling reminder. Wealth, status, only partial protection. Peasant family, lost to winter's scythe, all too common. Cruel, predictable. Disease added to prodigious death toll. Agues fevers spread like wildfire through communities weakened by malnutrition, close quarters, stale, smoky air. Ubiquitous filth made lungs vulnerable. Medieval physicians, useless treatments rooted in superstition, could do little. Roads treacherous with snowdrifts. Black ice, compounded woes. Only desperate. Foolhardy ventured far. Travel an ordeal. Peddlers' carts idle, depriving villages of goods. Tithes, taxes, uncollected, vexing liege lords, clergy. Woe to army mounting campaign over snow-choked roads. Supply lines stretched, fraying. Winter 1407, one of Middle Age's most astonishing military feats. Redoubtable Welsh rebel leader, Owain Glenfrey faced superior forces of future King Henry V in high mountain passes. Glinder's men, accustomed to harsh conditions, drew English into blizzard trap. Hapless in heavy armor, English ranks broke, fled. Many perished from exposure. Glinder's stunning victory, won as much by winter as Welsh prowess, lives in legend. Winters of medieval Europe, often marked by devastating famines. Cold lingered, spring planting delayed. Food shortages followed. Infamous Great Famine, 1315 to 1317, sparked by unusually wet, chilly spring rotting seedlings. Successive crop failures plunged much of continent into starvation. England bread price skyrocketed 20 times. Poor ate grass, roots, tree bark. Desperate scavengers dug graves, cannibalized dead. Estimated 10 to 25% population of cities like Ypres, Bruges, perished. French town of Troyes, citizen wrote, "Poor ate dogs, horses, unclean things." Misery compounded by crime, disease. Malnourished turned to theft, violence. Heart-trending account, St. Mary's Abbey Chronicles. Starving woman imprisoned, stealing. Loaf, pregnant, starving. Baker gave no bread. Hanged, infant fell from womb, lay bloody, screaming. No one touched it. Baby soon died. Famine eased, 1318. Weather turned favorable, but starvation stalked every winter, ready for grim harvest. For medieval people, winter always knowing unease, if not terror, praying meager stores lasted. Malnutrition, weakened populace, vulnerable to disease. Close, unsanitary living conditions led to frequent outbreaks, influenza, dysentery, pneumonia. Respiratory illnesses took heavy toll, spread by coughing and stale, smoky air, simple winter cold, deadly. Doctors little help, bleeding, purging. Emperor Charlemagne allegedly died of pleurisy. Bitter winter 814. Doctors, poultices, useless. Many historians believe Black Death, 14th century, spread so quickly because malnourished citizens, packed in winter quarters, little resistance. 1348 to 49 outbreak killed staggering 30 to 60% Europe's population. Poignant tale, Pistoia, Italy. Luca wrote to brother Francescino, describing devastation. Sick at heart, can barely write. Things worse, many dead, many more dying. Shops closed, taverns deserted, streets empty. Wails of grief echo. Stench of rot from mass graves. Fear city soon empty. Beg you, stay, pray unceasingly. Plague raged, entire villages wiped out. Suffering compounded by hasty mass burials in frigid ground. Sick expelled to die alone in snow. Devastating losses left deep psychological scars. Forever altered medieval world. Winter especially dreaded for elderly, young children, expectant mothers. Without modern medicine, these vulnerable populations frequently succumbed to cold, disease, malnourishment. Estimated some medieval societies, 20 to 30% infants died first. Year many during harsh winter. Pregnancy, childbirth, complications, exacerbated by poor diet, chilly conditions, claimed countless mothers, babies. Perils of winter childbirth illustrated by Matilda, 12-year-old daughter of King Henry I. Winter 1120. Aboard White Ship, France to England. Ship hit rock, sank. Matilda nearly escaped. Small rescue boat, cried for half-brother William. Boat, rowed back. So many tried climbing, capsized. King's young daughter, pregnant, perished. Grief-stricken father fainted, never smiled again. Very old, very young, always in peril. If survived, disease, starvation, might freeze in sleep. Poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Chilling description. Elderly King Arthur, shivering in drafty castle hall, teeth chattered, without insulating ice caps. Glaciers, medieval winters, raging snowstorms, devastating floods. 1216. King John supposedly lost crown jewels, crossing East Anglian Marsh. The Wash. Fleeing enemies. Baggage train swallowed by surging high tide, whipped by gales. King allegedly escaped. Treasure. Priceless jeweled crowns, scepters, disappeared. John died of dysentery days later. Broken man. Loss of crown jewels. Final blow. Winter storms disaster for coastal communities, battered by hurricane winds, massive waves. Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Terrible flood, England 1099. St. Martin's Day. Great sea flood, overran land, drowned many towns, countless people. Another North Sea flood, January 16, 1219. Submerged low-lying Netherlands, killing over 50,000. No. Early warning, emergency shelters, population at mercy of elements. Pray for deliverance. Icy floodwaters rose, wind howled. Harsh winters meant increased fires. Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Chilling account, deadly London blaze, 1132. Dreadful fire. London Bridge, spread rapidly, burned great part of city, St. Paul's. Canterbury, Cathedral, many churches, houses. Wind, flames carried, burning rafters, lead sheets, extraordinary distance. Most buildings timber, tightly crammed, tinder boxes. Stray spark, overturned candle, unstoppable inferno, gale winds whipped. Flames. People fled narrow streets. Homes burned, little more than clothes. Tragic stories, families separated, children trampled, people trapped, burned alive. Limited firefighting, citizens through water, snow, prayed, wind shift. Devastation near total, thousands homeless, destitute. Perhaps greatest danger, simple, inescapable. Life-sucking cold. Hard to imagine, modern central heating. Thermal fabrics, bone-chilling, damp, constant dark, adversary with little defense, smoky fires, fur piles, cold, sank deep, arthritis, rheumatism, common, pain worse each year, extremities, numb, black with frostbite, pneumonia, influenza, rampant, cold seeped into soul, sapping energy. 6th century British monk Gildas, on the ruin of Britain. Grim picture. Nights long, dark, days dreary, chill. Air bites, icy blasts cut to bone. All blanketed snow, frost. Great suffering, man, beast, earth dead, frozen, frigid hell, elderly frail, winter dread, hopeless feeling, warmth might never return. Piled clothing, huddled, fires sputtered, died, acrid smoke. Coughs, sniffles echoed. Groans of sick, dying. Cold kept icy grip, turning exhalations to frost, numbing appendages. Icy fingers into chest, squeezing breath, congealing blood. Young, healthy, moved as if through deep water. No escaping winter's clutches, no Florida vacations, cozy electric blankets, cold, constant, merciless companion, sapping precious energy. No wonder medieval world. Measured time, not months, years. But how many winters survived? To make it to spring, triumph, more difficult each season. But somehow, despite brutal conditions, rampant disease, gnawing hunger, life-stealing cold, people of Middle Ages endured, year after merciless winter, shouldered on, armored only in indomitable spirits. Last meager food stores low, tightened belts, fire burned to embers, drew tattered blanket close. Dark pressed in, huddled, whispered stories of brighter days. Moving passage, 14th century English poem Piers Plowman, through woe and winters. Bale, frost and snow and sleet and hail, all shall pass and peace prevail. Hope shall triumph and never fail. Even in winter's darkest depths, medieval folk found small joys, moments of grace. Neighbors shared little with those who had less. Amid cold, dark, people sang, prayed. Night, some swore they heard angels and howling winds, promising warmth, light. People of Middle Ages held fast to hope, clung fiercely to life, eyes fixed on far horizon where spring lay, new in bones. Winter, no matter how brutal, temporary. Sun return, snows melt, world reborn, green glorious, as if winter never come. All they had to do, endure, and endure they did. Strength forged in ice, stone of season. Winters of Middle Ages, brutal, merciless, seemingly endless. Hunger, disease, destruction, death, also brought out best in human spirit, unshakable will. To survive, hold fast to hope, come together in compassion, kindness. Medieval world, tempered in winter's icy crucible, emerged stronger, tougher, wiser, bone-deep appreciation for turning seasons. Perhaps learn lesson from medieval forebears, grumbling about scraping frost. For them, winter life and death survived with gritted teeth, unshakable resolve. And survive they did, passing tales of winter's wrath, invincible power of human spirit. In dead of modern winters, remember fortitude, find inspiration. People of Middle Ages stared winter full in icy face, refused to yield, endured floods, famine, blizzards, blackest night, buried dead in frozen ground, woke to groans of starving, always, always held fast to promise of spring. If they made it little more than faith, furs, surely we find strength. Thor will come, light return. Brutal winters long past, lessons echo, testament to enduring power of human spirit. Walk in ancestors' footsteps, meet winter's chill with courage, compassion, unshakable hope. If they braved darkest season, heads unbowed, so too can we. Winter is coming, but spring, as medieval world knew so well, never far behind as chilling winds howled across frozen landscape. Medieval folks, gathered around flickering hearth fire, huddled for precious warmth, shared tales of winters past. Harsh, unforgiving seasons testing mettle of hardiest souls. Humble cottages, grand manor houses, sting of winter's icy breath knew no bounds. Drafty shutters, thin thatched roofs, scant protection. Peasants to princes, all felt Jack Frost nipping noses, numbing extremities, some fortunate roaring hearth. Crackle of flames, aroma of smoke, small comfort. Castles of highborn, great hall, fireplaces, consumed prodigious wood, attended by shivering servants. Even mightiest noble shuddered beyond fire's glow. Winter's chill penetrated thickest stone, richest furs, low birth, season especially grim, arduous struggle. Rough-hewn hovels, precious little comfort. Meager peat, wood scavenged from forest, barely fed sputtering hearth. Families crammed squalid quarters, sharing body heat, breathing air thick with smoke. Fetid stench of unwashed humanity, bleak existence. Yet, even facing privations, moments of cheer, glow of communal fires, village square, drew folks from hovels. Gathered, neighbors exchanged jests, jibes, stories, songs. Fleeting time, cruel realities distant. Young lovers stole secret kisses, ardor undimmed. Children shrieked, scampered, slid across frozen ponds. Elderly felt years lived, transported to carefree winters of youth. such interludes precious for rarity. Winter's onslaught relentless. Thoughts turned to empty bellies, gnawing hunger, constant companion of poor, dreams of spring's bounty, cruel mockery, fields barren beneath snow, specter of famine loomed, failed harvest, doomed for villages. Many a mother watched child's cheeks grow gaunt, eyes dulled with starvation's hollow stare. Cruel calculus of scarcity bred special desperation. Tales abounded, depraved lengths, some went to fill bellies, unnatural acts haunting pious folk. Hunger not only scourge, winter's chill breath bred host of maladies, preying on weakened populace. Hacking cough of pneumonia echoed. Pox, flux raged, decimating families. Very old, very young, especially vulnerable. Frail bodies, ill-equipped, perhaps greatest cruelty for those forced out into winter's fury. Travelers risked life, limb, treacherous ice-licked roads. Many hapless wayfarer met doom, swallowed by swirling blizzards, plummeting into deep snowdrifts. Frozen corpses, undiscovered till spring thaw. Grim reminder of winter's lethal power. Even valiant knights, stout warriors, not immune, clad in heavy armor, easy prey for bone-chilling cold. Numb hands, clumsy from frozen gauntlets, fumbled. Sword, shield. Mighty chargers floundered deep snow. Icicles on heaving flanks, great small alike, cursed winter. Halls of power, crown weighed heavy, royal brows furrowed. Monarch couldn't decree season's reverse. Cost of keeping court supplied, staggering. Royal treasuries groaned. Grasping merchants reaped handsome profits. For all miseries, winters, rain not eternal. Depths of icy despair, folk clung to promise of spring's sweet renewal. Joyous feast of St. Stephen, welcome reprieve. One raucous day, world upside down, lowly peasant assumed lord of misrule mantle. Drunken revelry, bawdy songs, lifted spirits, laughter, balm for careworn soul, echoed. In fullness of time, winter's gelid grip loosened. Icicles dripped, strengthening. Sun worked subtle magic. Snowdrops, crocuses pushed through softening earth. Delicate harbingers, land stirred new life, shaking torpid slumber. Hearts lifted, voices raised. Feast of the plough, triumphant return of spring's verdant splendor. Sleek oxen dragged gleaming plowshares. Cycle of planting began anew. Lean times faded, fields rippled with green, golden bounty. Looking back, marvel at medieval forebears. Fortitude, year after pitiless year, endured winter's cruelties. Stoicism born of necessity. Strength of spirit, unbreakable community bonds. Secret of survival, unimaginable hardship. Found pockets of hope, shared humanity. So next time grumble about delayed flight, slushy streets, pause, reflect. Modern winter woes, shadow of what once was. Tapestry of human history, icy trials of Middle Ages loom large. Reminder of species' remarkable resilience, preciousness of warm hearth, full belly. As we drift to slumber, spare thought for those before. Dreams, perhaps glimpse their world, harsher, crueler, yet indomitable human spirit shone brighter for darkness. Good night, sweet dreams of gentle spring breezes, as bitter chill of winter descended once more upon weary lands of medieval Europe. For poor peasants, scraping meager living from soil, very warmth, light seemed to retreat, replaced by deep, aching cold, penetrating to bone. Little more than rags, scant food, they shivered, suffered in drafty hovels, cruel winds howled beyond walls. Fortunate few, fireplaces, wood stores, huddled for warmth and flickering glow. Most, only comfort shared body heat of family, livestock. Packed close, fetid stench of unwashed bodies, mingling with steam of cattle breath. One imagines coughs, fevers, agonizing aches, plaguing them in damp, crowded squalor. Wonder any emerged alive. But even highest-born nobles, thick furs, grand feasts, not immune to icy grasp. Great medieval castles, soaring stone walls, cavernous halls, vast refrigerators in winter. Chills seeped from floors, ceilings, saturated air, defying mightiest hearts. Tales of royal winter woes make one shudder. 15th century, Queen Elizabeth Woodville, consort of King Edward IV, said to have frozen to death in chambers one uncommonly frigid night. Records murky, embellished. One account claims, despite heavy robes, furs, poor woman succumbed, found mourning, frozen stiff. True or not, illustrates winter's perilous nature, even for most privileged. Kings, queens, might avoid gnawing hunger. Squalid conditions of low-born subjects, but hazards of season, great equalizer. Royals could no more command elements than live without air. Chill found way into most luxurious medieval bedchambers. So, as days grew shorter, nights darker, more frigid, whole of medieval society braced for annual onslaught. Lowliest cotter to loftiest lord, grim endurance settled. Knowledge only way out was through. Stores of grains, salted meats checked, rechecked. Every scrap wood, kindling jealously hoarded. Heavy woolen garments donned. Only spark levity, hope in bleak affair. Christmas festivities, Feast of St. Stephen, December 26th. Few merry days, normal social order gleefully appended. Lord of misrule appointed from peasantry. Presided over bawdy array of feasts, dances, games, general mischief. Bellies full ale, wine. Faces flushed from press of bodies, exertions of revelry. Common folk could, brief shining moment, forget long privations, revel in joys of life. Community.1 imagines boisterous celebration, erupting halls, public squares. Raucous laughter, wheezing reed pipes, fiddles, people capered, whirling kaleidoscope. Of color, mirth. Once, serf, noblemen mingled freely. Lines of class, station erased in goodwill, fellowship. Lord of misrule, puffed up young peasant lad, stars in eyes. Issued grandiose proclamations, ridiculous decrees, delight of all. Heady thing, burst of misrule, Saturnalia amid bleakness. But all things, festive season, temporary respite, eye of storm. Your log burned to embers, last wassail bowl drained. People drifted back to hearths, aching cold darkness descended. Gaiety of St. Stephen's Day, Lord of misrule's brief shining reign, replaced by grim business of survival, winter tightened grip. Next interminable stretch, time slowed to frigid crawl, land frozen, unworkable, little for rural peasantry, but hunker down, pray for deliverance. Shortening days, lengthening nights, yawned like vast chasm. Huddled in crude shelters against killing cold, must have despaired ever feeling spring's warm breath. But even cruelest winter not forever. First, greening shoots already straining beneath frozen ground, biding time. For those who endured, clung to hope, each other, through darkest days, coldest nights. Thaw would come, sun return, blood quicken, world slowly shed grays. Whites for burgeoning riot of color. Plough Monday, just after Epiphany, land tilled again. Great wheel of agricultural year creak back. People emerge blinking into pale, gathering light leaner, deeply tired but alive, glad. Fields furrowed, seeds planted, flocks driven to new grass, whole merry dance of life begin anew. But that yet to come. For now, cruel heart of winter beat on. People of Middle Ages steeled themselves, drew comfort from rough woolen cloaks, smoky hovels, scant food stores, but most of all, each other. Worlds so beset by hardship, peril, very. Season seemed intent on crushing life. Endured as always, together, lords, peasants, young, old, shivering, hoping beneath same leaden winter sky, waiting for spring. Hunkered down, darkness, cold, listening to mournful howl of wind, groaning of ice, spinning tales, weaving dreams to while away long winter nights. Perhaps imagined future, Winters kinder, hearths warmer, bellies fuller, world their shivering. Hands, frozen bones might build, or perhaps simply held fast to scraps of light, hope. Knowing even longest winter must yield to spring. Face of brutal conditions. Human spirit's strength to endure, keep faith, truly marvel. Cannot help feel swell of admiration, fortitude of medieval forebears, faced each bitter winter, indomitable foe, emerged year after year to greet spring. Tip hats to long ago lords, peasants, suffered much, endured still more. Modern world, central heating, end-demand grocery, easy forget hardships, drifting to sleep, warm beds, spare thought for huddled medieval masses, marvel at strength carrying them, winter after winter, waiting for light's return. World so often cold, dark, such enduring hope, resilience, fire unquenchable, burning from distant hovels to our own night-swaddled rooms. May we keep flame alive, come what winter may. As long winter months dragged, medieval folk looked forward to any opportunity to lift spirits, foster community goodwill amidst hardships. One beacon of hope, Feast of St. Stephen, celebrated December 26th, origins obscure, by Middle Ages, cherished tradition across Europe. After solemn Christmas Day observances, St. Stephen's Day time for merrymaking, feasting, playful reversal of social roles. Central to festivities, custom of misrule, peasant or commoner appointed lord of misrule, for day, granted power to command. Social superiors, light-hearted appending of status quo, much-needed release valve for rigid class tensions. Lord of misrule presided over topsy-turvy day of revelry, leading raucous processions, initiating mischievous pranks, decreeing everyone. Lords to laborers, make merry. Professional entertainers, minstrels, jugglers, jesters, plied trades, games of chance, skill kept crowds amused, bawdy comedic sketches, mummers' plays, performed, reenacting tales from legend, folklore, broad, exaggerated strokes, mock jousts. Farcical court proceedings induced peals of laughter, welcome respite from grim winter life. Of course, no medieval celebration, complete without hearty feast. St. Stephen's Day, Lord of Misrule, could insist wealthy provide food, drink for whole community. Charitable gesture, fostering goodwill. Roasted meats centerpiece, geese, capons. Traditional roast boar's head, marched in with fanfare. Minced meat pies, heavy with dried fruit, spices, sweet treat. Wassail bowl flowed freely, warm spiced cider bolstering spirits. One almost hears laughter, lively chatter ringing through halls, rising above blustery winds. One brief shining day, winter hardships faded, community came together, joy, camaraderie. Feast concluded, revelers dispersed to hearths, carried warmth of festivities, flicker of cheery firelight, knowledge of friends, neighbors to rely on, moments of laughter, levity even in bleakest times, buoyed spirits. Winter's icy grip seemed less harsh, howling winds more bearable, belly full, heart full of fellowship. Feast of St. Stephen, timely. Reminder, even deepest darkness yield to hopeful stirrings of spring. Those fragile shoots of new life tentatively emerged. Winter snow receded, frozen ground thawed. Watchful eyes eagerly scanned for snowdrops, valiant little flowers, fresh green. Stalks delicate white blooms through melting slush. Arrival heralded winter's long night ending, season of rebirth approaching. Villages everywhere, weary folk rejoiced. First hints of color, vitality returned to landscape shrouded in icy white stillness. New spring in steps, medieval peasants returned to agricultural rhythms. Great wheel of life turning. Hibernating livestock led to pastures greening. Farmer hitched team to plow, eager to churn, softening earth. First Monday after Epiphany, January, Plough Monday. Land worked again after winter freeze, inaugurating new farming season. Plow stored. For winter, hauled out. blessed and joyful Plough Monday processions. Ploughmen went door to door, collecting food, ale, small coins, anticipating work, harvest. One pictures weather-beaten village, communal plot, faces turned gratefully to sky, brightening. Hoes digging sticks, prepare to sink first hopeful seeds. Act of faith, spring conquer winter. Wizened old grandmother, child clutching each gnarled hand, shows how to plant peas, as her grandmother taught her. Smaller child giggles, rotund earthworm wriggles free. Older solemnly pushes seed into waiting hollow. Moments like this, knowledge past, growth bloomed anew, made winter privations worthwhile. Warm smile crinkling grandmother's eyes, promise, dark days past, life returning. Seeds nestle, strengthening sun coaxes green shoots, specter of winter finally releases icy hold. Pall of cold, death eased by hope, renewal, carried on spring's gentle breezes. Looking back, modern vantage, sobering reflect on immense fortitude, resilience to endure brutal medieval winters. None of amenities, comforts we take for granted. Survival to spring feet, worthy of marvel. Yet, midst unimaginable hardship, medieval people found cause for hope, joy, celebration, warmth of community, promise of spring, restorative power of laughter, fellowship, lights guiding through winters. Darkest depths, perhaps as we snuggle, cozy comforters, insulated from cold. Spare thought for long ago ancestors. Next time winter wind rattles windows, grumble at chill, pause, smile wryly, recognizing our woes pale, drifting to sleep, carry knowledge we too possess ember of same invincible summer burning in medieval hearts. Assurance spring always returns, life goes on, no matter how dark winter night. So as last light fades, wind whispers lullaby, I invite imagination to wander, walk alongside. Distant ancestors triumphed over winter's icy reign. May their courage, indomitable spirit inspire dreams. If this journey piqued curiosity, like video, subscribe. Always more boring tales to lull into restful slumber. Until next time, sleep well, dream of cozy hearths, fresh green shoots stirring. Good night.